What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Sunday, January 26th, Conference Championship Sunday here in America, if you're an NFL fan. But before we get to the big games, as you know, I'll be rooting for my Kansas City Chiefs, looking for that three-peat. But before that, we're going to break down Saturday night's main event. And I'm stoked about it because it was a fun night last night. And not only was it a fun night last night for me watching it at home, we've got someone in the building today who didn't watch it at home. He watched it in the building. Let's go first to our good friend Ignacio. How was the show last night, bro?
Wow. I think this is the first time I've been introduced first. Man, what a feeling. I feel so special now.
You earned it.
Man, it was it was an awesome show, man. The crowd was on fire. The show was on fire. I thought it was a great show, and it was absolutely great to be there live. I can't wait to talk about it.
It did look really fun. San Antonio crowds are special. It's an underrated wrestling city. It's an underrated sports city, right? Yes. You see the support for the Spurs. I have fond memories of Kansas winning the 2008 national championship in San Antonio, and it's underrated across the board. I've always thought that.
I was there real quick. I was there. I was there when they drafted Tim Duncan.
Oh, I love that.
Like everybody went nuts. It was like they had a parade and all this. It was insane.
It turned out well. 5 championships later, he's got a ring for each finger. He's got a 100%. Fistful of them. I love that. Absolutely. Let's introduce the other two though. First, I'm going to send this one north of the border to a Eagles fan. Somehow we have a bazillion Eagles fans here at WR, but Coby, you getting ready for this game? Obviously kickoff right now, but afterwards, and how do you like Saturday night's main event?
I actually thought, comparatively, if you took what they did last year with the first one and how long, I think this one flowed a lot better and didn't really leave much to be desired. Where I think last time they were like, okay, these 2 matches delivered and the rest were like, okay, they were fine, but nothing more. This one, I felt like coming out of everything that happened, there's at least some satisfaction coming out of it. So I do think this was the better Saturday night's main event of the first 2 that we've seen in how long.
I actually couldn't agree more. I thought it was very, very, very well done last night. But let me also introduce our third co-host panelist of the day. We've got a full crew today, all the way across the pond. The only one of us likely not getting ready to watch any football, as I've mentioned multiple times. Soul himself, the host of the Soul Sessions, is in the building. What's good?
I'm good, mate. If I'm doing anything, it's just relaxing at the most this time of the night. You guys talking about Eagles and Falcons. If you're bird watchers, fair dues. I didn't know you guys were into that kind of hobby. But nonetheless, Saturday night main event was all right. I didn't think it was anything stupendous. I didn't think it was anything bad. Nitpickies on a personal level. But besides that, I'm sure people had fun with this event.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into it. We've got some comments out of the gates. We've got Aloha, everybody from Sean Ellis. What's going on, Aloha, my friend? My mom giving me and Ignacio a little bit for showing our age in the best possible way. That cracks me up. No doubt about it. But let's get into our first segment here. We've got Rhea Ripley retaining her title against Nia Jax. It was an interesting match. I enjoyed it. Coby, were you on the Saturday night main event review, or did somebody else review it? Either way, what were your thoughts on Ripley versus Jax?
So my thoughts were, I saw a lot of comparisons of, was this better than the Chamber match? And I think it's tough to compare them because of what they were both meant to be. This one was the opening match. It was more of a sprint. The other one was the marquee, the headlining match of the show. And they definitely got a lot more time in Australia last year. This one I thought was more of a sprint, and I think it worked because we got to see Rhea Ripley fight from below again. And Nia Jax looks good. Her moveset's there now, and she is a great wrestler now. And I think that's what she brings to the table now. I think Rhea was great. I think the Sunset Bomb was great to see. The electric chair is always going to be impressive because, carrying Nia Jax for a short amount of time is always going to be something that only a certain amount of people can do.
It's a highlight.
And then, it was the obvious result, but I think it was a very fun match regardless.
I think you made a really, really, really good point there, Coby, about the pacing of this one. I thought it was a huge improvement. There's something about those powerhouse matches. Sometimes a sprint makes more sense. If they sit there and beat each other up like long drag out, you wouldn't believe it because the power of both athletes is going to end it quickly. And so logically, I think it actually did make quite a bit of sense. I'm going to go to you next, Soul, before I go to Ignacio, because I do want to get the in-building perspective. But what did you think about this match? Did you think they did a better job this time around than last time, like Coby did?
Yeah, no, I agree on that 100%. Another thing, though, I have to say is I'm kind of bored of Rhea Ripley. And I want to propose a question to all you guys. Do you guys feel anything different from Rhea with the championship and without the championship over these last couple of months with the feud with Liv Morgan? Because I feel like they're just the same people, right? When you get a championship, you should feel different. You should feel completed or feel like you're ready to move on to the next thing. But with Rhea, I feel like it's just the continuation of the exact same thing. She still acts the same. She's still mommy this, mommy that, still has this character. And I feel like there are other people I would like to see with the championships besides Rhea Ripley. It was like Rhea Ripley was in the main event and obviously with Liv and was the most prominent thing on Raw women's wise. It just feels like more of the same. And it's not for me personally. And I can commend Rhea Ripley as a fantastic worker, fantastic wrestler and everything about it. But just for me, I'm a bit tired out of Rhea Ripley and her main event run, in my personal opinion.
You know, I wouldn't say I'm tired of it yet, but I can see really where you're coming from, Soul, because here's my one issue we have with Ripley, and this happens sometimes in wrestling, I think. She's so athletic and so strong and so imposing that even though she's got a unique look and the fans really want to cheer her, it's really hard to find a believable foe against her because she's so explosive and so strong, but she's too popular to turn heel.
It's not even that. It's not like her turning heel or wrestling ability. I'm just sick of the whole goth mommy gimmick. Like it's done well, and I understand it sells well because people will happily buy anything with her face on it or wherever she's touched it or whatever because people are weird in this day and age. But digressing on that point, I'm just fed up because it feels like Rhea Ripley with the championship is just the same as her chasing the championship with Liv Morgan.
Because even this is my one more thing I'll add before I go to you here, Ignacio, is for me, like even the matchup with Liv, if you're looking at gambling odds, Rhea Ripley on paper should be the favorite in that match. She's not really fighting from underneath against Liv Morgan as the babyface challenger. Right. Just the reality. If you see the stare down, the visual in the ring, and that's why I do enjoy the Ripley Nia Jax encounters, because at least in this scenario, you know, she's dealing with a larger athlete, a stronger athlete that you could logically be like, ooh, that's going to be tougher to overcome. Can she even execute her full move set on Nia Jax? Right. Whereas Liv Morgan, I mean, she could probably dribble Liv Morgan like a basketball if she wanted to. It's just like, it's one of those things, you know, and that's no knock on Liv. I thought Liv's work was underrated last year. I've said that before, but I do think Rhea's in that tough. Roman Reigns in some ways is in a tough position like that because you want to cheer him. He is a baby face right now, but it's really hard to put somebody in front of him that you're not like, well, yeah, Roman should squash that guy. Right. And Ripley, I just think there's a few cracks there. I do also, though,
just briefly on
the, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, just briefly, especially looking at how the rivalry kind of panned out, and I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't a logical story because it was logic. Liv took everything away. Right. Always was one step ahead with the Raquel return, and she kept on going after Rhea, and Rhea got to the point where she just wanted to get the title back. And I don't want to say the title the title's not adding to Rhea's aura, but I think the biggest thing is week to week, I think we're seeing the same thing. This is my brutality is getting a big pop, and that's what Triple H is working with. Triple H is going, well, we're gonna get this pop, and it's gonna be big because it's big, but I need to see something compelling, especially this time of the year.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's totally fair. Now, I do have to ask you, Ignacio, if you have stuff to add here when it comes to the Ripley character, don't hesitate. But in the arena, did this match play as well as it did on TV? Because it did seem like the crowd was into it.
Absolutely, 100%, dude. But the crowd was with everything all night. They ate everything up, and it was a good show. It was a good show. I think Ben mentioned in his analysis of the show yesterday or early this morning that he thought it was kind of like it's okay, you can go ahead and kind of miss it show. I disagree. I think they had great matches. The we'll talk about the KO and Shawn Michaels and the Cody segment later, but it was a great show. I encourage everybody to go back and watch it because the main event the matches were all good, and they told good stories, and there was a continuation of some stories. So I think overall it was a great show, and they loved this match. I mean, you talked about Nia and Rhea being kind of like a power match, but Rhea Ripley, she did like a Huracan Rana.
She did,
and she did the Canadian Destroyer, and Nia followed through with it, and it was amazing. The great display of athletic ability on both women. And going back to Ben's analysis, he said they over-delivered, and I won't disagree with that, but I think they delivered the way I expected, because when Nia is on, she's on. Like, she has a great match, and then when she makes some mistakes, it's painfully obvious, and people, haters if you will, they capitalize on that. But when she's on, she's 100% on, and she's good. And to kind of branch off of what Coby and Soul mentioned, some concerns about Rhea Ripley, is that I think Rhea Ripley is definitely more special with the title, because she is the best women's wrestler in wrestling right now, and she should have the title. But my concern is that, okay, we've done Nia Jax, we've had the feud with Liv Morgan, she's had a great match with Becky Lynch last year, she's wrestled Charlotte at WrestleMania twice, although I wouldn't mind seeing it again. But if you want a fresh match for WrestleMania, who's it going to be? Because she's, gone through the aforementioned names that I've just said. But it's like, who's going to be a fresh matchup for her? Who's on fire? Timothy Stratton. You can't go that route because she has the other title. So my concern is there's no fresh matchup. If it's not one of the 4 horsewomen, if it's not Liv Morgan, we've seen it already. Who's next for her? That's my concern.
I mean, that even a short list. You got Naomi, you got Bianca Belair, you got Io Sky really hasn't had it on the main roster. I don't believe Io has a shot. You got Bailey. Like, there are fresh mashups, but we need something compelling, because as I think
that's
the
what
last
I'm saying. There's no marquee match.
Well, and even
there's no marquee match for a WrestleMania in Las Vegas.
Bailey,
we want a marquee match.
Yeah,
I mean, there's several already, I think.
I mean, here's an interesting point, though, that I Ignacio made in the beginning when you were first talking, though, about the athleticism and when Nia Jax is being on. I do think there's something too, because Nia is generally so much bigger and stronger than most of her opponents. There's something too facing someone like Rhea Ripley, that veil of fear of hurting him is kind of gone, because Ripley's strong enough physically to hang, so Nia can sort of open up the bag a little bit more, as the kids like to say, right? And I do think that that's a factor when it comes to Nia Jax that we often overlook. And you can see it with some of the, like, if you look historically on the big men's division side, Big Show had some of his best work against Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar, he wasn't afraid to to stand opposite him. He had the strength to, and that's where you saw some of his best work in his career. And I'm not saying that Nia Jax is the Big Show or anything like that, but just it does make sense to me there. And I think that's a factor why Nia looks very good against some opponents, and then others she's a little bit more cautious, because at the end of the day, it's a safety thing, right? Like, she could really hurt someone with that much of a size and strength advantage. 100%. But let's keep it rolling. Let's talk about Braun Breaker and Sheamus. Breaker with the victory here. He's had a heck of a run on the main roster. I think a little more up and down than I anticipated when he first got called up, but I don't want to be overly critical here out of the gates. Soul, Sheamus, Mr. Banger after banger and everything. What were your thoughts on last night's little encounter here?
No, it was fine match. Again, I feel like this is just with me and Saturday Night's Main Event. It was fine. I did see people have problems online because, everyone has to have a vocal point in, wrestling nowadays, that like Saturday Night Main Event doesn't mean something to people. People are like, I expected a title change. I expected something to change hands to make me feel invested. Well, one, this is unless you're somebody who paid to attend the event, this was someone that it was on free television. It was on YouTube streaming live. Like, I fully go into this and think, yeah, no titles are changing hands, especially this close to the Rumble or, WrestleMania coming up. And the thing about Sheamus is that, Sheamus is a great wrestler and is also a great guy from what I've seen on his training and all that. I feel like he is cementing into the role of the old guard putting over the new guard. And I know people want him to get this Grand Slam championship thing and whatever. But like, if he's got 3 years on his contract and this is a big moment, you milk it. You milk it until, honestly, with Sheamus, I feel he would be somebody that would be like, I want to win the IC, and then I want it to be like, when I lose the belt, I'm done. Sort of like what Bryan's done with his full-time career in AEW. I feel like when Sheamus does get the IC title and his Grand Slam, he's in the final stretch of his career. He's in that final run. Whoever he drops it to, I don't know, but like, I feel like he's in a position where he's happy, and I feel like he's in a position where he can elevate people, because Braun Breaker, he did have the flip-flop with the IC with Jay, but he's kind of cemented into a role of, putting on stellar matches and hard-hitting matches when he needs to. And the thing is, if you go into it and like with WrestleMania program, it's something to what Punk said, who would benefit from a WrestleMania program more, Sheamus or Braun Breaker? And it's clearly Breaker that needs it more than Sheamus.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. Breaker, Sheamus has had WrestleMania runs, right?
Yeah.
And pushes like that. Breaker definitely needs to be featured in some way on this year's card to really establish him headed into, because I look at WrestleMania as the end of the calendar year, like it's the Super Bowl, right? Like that's the championship game. And so I don't look at this, despite this being the beginning of the actual year in January, I look at like almost like there aren't seasons in wrestling, but if there was, Monday is the start of next season. Heading into that with some momentum coming out of Mania for Breaker, I think would be huge, because I do think there is some to be desired, like you mentioned, with the flip-flopping of the title with Jay and stuff on this run. How strong I thought he could look on the main roster. He's shown flashes, but then it feels like it's like pump the brakes for a second, and it's a little bit of a start-stop situation with him to have a really clean push headed to Mania, a really legitimate opponent, and I hopefully pick up a win, I think would be huge for Breaker. Like I don't want to call it a signature win, because that's too many cliches in one little rant, but a signature win would be nice.
Yeah, I think the tough one is I think we could have been set up for Bronson Reed versus Braun Breaker at WrestleMania with the entire push Reed was getting over the last few months, but he did get hurt. So I think we have to find who's there for Breaker. If it's not just him beating up Goldberg.
Absolutely.
Because I think that is the guy who should retire Goldberg. One of them.
That'd be hilarious.
Gunther or Breaker retiring Goldberg makes sense. But when does that happen? Who knows?
Who knows? That could be any day now. We'll see. Okay. Either way, let's keep it rolling here. Let's talk about my favorite professional wrestler of all time, because there is not a better super kick in the game than the Sweet Chin Music. I actually felt bad for Jey Uso for having to throw one in the main event after we saw the band tune up and play our favorite song. I mean, that is a tough situation for Jey Uso. It didn't bother me, actually. I think in modern wrestling, we already saw that move stuff. That's a little bit, that veil's been lifted and we're good. There's a difference between the Sweet Chin Music and a basic super kick you're going to see in the context of a current match. And I'm cool. At first, I was a little bit too, on my high horse, like, no, you can't all be super kicking. It's kind of too late now. That's where we're at, even like with the DDT as well. But the Sweet Chin Music still manages to be special because of who's delivering it. And it lands every time. I can't fathom how hot that crowd was for this segment. Talk to me about it, Ignacio. You were there. I mean, was this just absolute memories?
Start to finish, it was a great segment. To begin with, Sean, of course, he's in San Antonio. I don't think he lives in San Antonio anymore. He probably lives in Florida because of NXT, but the hometown crowd was glad to see him. He didn't get the biggest pop of the night, though. I will say that went to somebody else. I'll talk about that later on. But yeah, great pop for Sean. Everybody was glad to see him. And this segment, it worked mainly because of Kevin Owens. I mean, Kevin Owens just played the crowd so good. Everything that was written for him, whether it was him or writers or whoever or Triple H, I mean, everything that was written for him, the timing of everything was just so good. Just when he's about to sign the contract, he's like, "Whoa, wait a minute, I got something else to say, and this is what I have to say." And the crowd, they ate it up, man. They fed into it. The confrontation between Owens and Michaels, that was good, and the exchange, and I knew this was coming. But when Kevin mentioned, like, maybe I'll just take the title and then lose my smile and stuff, and then Shawn Michaels kind of like, "Oh, gee, I gotta deal with this again," and then and Cody's responded well, but everything, this was about signing the contract and all that stuff, but it was more chemistry between Shawn and Kevin Owens, and it was because of the San Antonio crowd and all that. That's what they were building towards, or what was expected. But it was a great exchange between everybody. It was a great build. It was a great contract signing. Nobody went through the table, right?
Loved that.
Yeah. Shauna did the sweet chin music. The crowd popped for it. It was just, man, it was great all overall. It was just genius, and what a way to set up the ladder match for Royal Rumble. Hey, let me mention this to you.
Oh, go ahead.
How many title matches, real quick? How many title matches has Kevin Owens had the Royal Rumble, and how many has he won?
I feel like 4 or 5.
I think he's 0.
I think he's like 0-5.
He retained once. I know that.
What I wonder is it like a concerted effort to keep him out of the Rumble match? Like, is that why they booked him in title matches every Rumble? I know, like he might have the most appearances at the Rumble with the least in the Rumble match. I'm wondering if that stat probably exists somewhere. That's actually kind of possible, and that'd be if it was one of those things they never actually talk about it, but it is intentional. I love little stuff like that, just like random patterns. Like, now just only put me in the Rumble match when it makes sense, but not always, right? Yeah. I will say for a split second, though, I started to panic when he was tuning up the band, because you mentioned the table spot, Ignacio. I was like, please do not have this be a miss pop-up powerbomb table spot. Like, please.
They didn't do it, though.
They didn't. Thank goodness they didn't. But I was like, back in the day when Shawn would tune it up, he usually misses when he tunes it up. It's the out of nowhere one that lands, right? It used to be he tunes it up, he misses, and then he gets him.
I'll add this. Let me add this also to real quick, because I want to get to the main event and I want time for that. Yes. But what Soul was branching out as far as Saturday night's main event, its real relevance. Well, back then, Saturday night's main event was known for big moments that led to matches or feuds or storylines or whatever, like Andre and Hulk Hogan and the double referee deal. You know what I mean? Like the formation of the Mega Powers. Well, this was like one of those moments. This was what Saturday night's main event was built on, is moments like this. You know what I mean? Not necessarily
historically. That is a great point, because historically it was never about the giant match or the crazy card. You would always have big names advertised for the show, but it was really about building something for the future, and it was used in that way really well. I think that's why it was also so popular, is because it brought people to the next show as well as any wrestling show could historically. And I agree with you. They kind of stuck to that way of thinking when it came to this, especially given it's only a week shy of the Rumble. They really did. They went old school. They used it to build the Rumble, right? It used to be, like you mentioned, the Mega Powers forming. That was to build Mania, right? The all kinds of moments in history on Saturday night's main event generally lead to the next big, not Brock Lesnar, but the next big thing, right? And I thought they did a great job of that last night, but let's keep it rolling, like you said, so we got time for the good old main event. This one wasn't the main event, but man, did I enjoy it, because that was violent, and sometimes you need a little bit of violence. I don't know if it was necessarily all blood in the mouth or nose, but that was a lot of hip attacks in the corner. and a lot of moonsaults, and they are really impressive because that guy's 280 pounds. What in the world? That is hard. You can't, in the video game, create a character that size with the aerial skill. They literally block you. They block you. They're like, yeah, no, you can't be that big and do moonsaults. Like the game had to probably change for Jacob. I mean, it's ridiculous. The stuff that he can do for a guy that size. It's crazy. And I loved how they did this. I will say it was a little bit odd to me. Braun looks to be in very good shape, but he looked slower than normal, even running around the ring. I don't know if I was the only one that noticed that.
His knees look shot.
But his knee looked shot. Yeah, I felt bad. I hope he's good because, we just now got him back, and I think he's a valuable member of the roster. No question about it. But I also thought he did a heck of a job in his role that he's not used to being in last night opposite Jacob Fatu. Coby talked to me about it. I mean, Jacob Fatu to the moon? Come on, right? Like, this guy is an animal.
The biggest thing that I kind of took from this is if I had to sum it up with words and even using the results, because the result was Braun Strowman by DQ. That was the result. That was what happened. And if you just look at the results, I don't think you would go, oh yeah, that's something I want to see. But the big highlight isn't the match. The big highlight is Jacob Fatu brutalizing Braun Strowman. Because keep in mind, this is someone who, like we said, he's much faster, he's much athletic. This isn't the guy in MLW 6 years ago who was much bigger doing this stuff. Like, this is Jacob Fatu, who is much leaner than he used to be and is still a monster in the ring. And like Braun Strowman in the last 4 months has done a lot of really good stuff. He helped elevate Bronson Reed, and he very much helped elevate Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu being the heel Samoan werewolf that is now running roughshod is getting cheers. Like, that's what this moment was about, is people wanted to see Jacob Fatu moonsault after hit that moonsault multiple times, and they cheered it, and it just shows you Jacob Fatu is going to be a monster, and he's going to be a major player in the next how many years. That's what he can get as a heel.
My favorite part about it was the fear in the eyes of the security guards. I will say, though, he doinked the one referee in the head with that chair, and I was like, that might have been a bit much. Like, I dug it. Don't get me wrong. The visual was great, but I was also like, woo, that one was a blanket with sleeves. That was a snuggie. There's no doubt about that. Also, we got a comment over here on Instagram from Polo Ride 24. He said, I love you, Jacob. But then he said, but not those dang KC referees. Hey, man, it's a tracked stat. Per 100 snaps, 0.93% or 0.93 out of 100 snaps, Josh Allen gets a roughing the passer call. It's 0.63 for Patrick Mahomes. So look that one up. We'll see. Check that out. Then tell me about the referees. We'll talk about that one later. I'm just saying. It's a made-up trope. We got the Magic Man, too. I'll take it. All right. That's enough about football, though. Let's talk about some wrestling here. Let's talk about Progress Wrestling in particular. If you haven't checked out the Man Progress Plus, you're going to want to do that. Use the code WATCHPROGRESS1. You're going to get 50% off your first month of on-demand Progress Plus, the home of Progress, Defy, and many more promotions. This is a really fun one, guys. A really cool library. I highly recommend you check it out. But also, while you're up and just signing up and downloading things, this one's absolutely free. Head over to the App Store, whether you have an iPhone like a normal person or the Google Play Store if you've got an Android to bug your friends in group chats. Head to the upcoming streams section. Once you've downloaded the Itsy app, you're going to really enjoy it. It's a really cool new platform that we're working with. And we'll have all kinds of good stuff coming up live stream wise. And the best part about it is if you hang out long enough and you want to argue with me or Ben or any of the other creators about professional wrestling, you can actually come on the app during a live stream, talk to us face to face, and it'll be fun. So one more time, that's download the Itsy app in either the Apple app or the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. There we go. All right. Let's get on to the main event, my friends. Let's talk about Gunther Although it was weird, they were calling him Gunther last night, and I was under the impression it was Gunther. Now I'm as confused as I've ever been. Neither here nor there. He ends the Yeet movement. I think that's a bit harsh, even on our own graphic, but I didn't make the graphics, so that's what we've got. Jey Uso, I'm imagining, was the biggest pop of the night that you were describing earlier. I believe, Ignacio, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I'm going to go to you out of the gates. This one did seem really fun in the arena. Jey seemed close for a second there. I thought maybe Gunther picks up the victory, but I really did enjoy the match, and I thought it was a worthy main event. What were your thoughts on it from inside the building?
110%. Jey Uso got the biggest pop of the night. I mean, everybody was on fire for Jey Uso. He's 100%, in my opinion, because I see it on TV. I see it at last night. I saw it last night live. Bro, he's like he's the most over babyface in the company right now. And I'll talk about the match. The match was laid out beautifully. It was, Gunther was kind of dominating Jey Uso, and everybody was kind of thinking like, dang, Gunther was right. This guy, it's nothing. He's wiping the floor with him. And Jey Uso would come back from behind, doing the underdog thing. And then towards middle to the end of the match, Jey Uso started building some momentum. Everybody, dude, halfway through the match when Jey Uso started picking up the momentum, like there was not one person sitting down. Like they made you believe that there's a chance that Jey Uso can pull this off. And he was this close, but he didn't. And I think that's where I'm going to go with. I'm glad this was the title for this topic, that I just think that if Jey Uso doesn't win the Royal Rumble, it's like something with him needs to happen soon, like in the immediate near future, because it reminded me of DDP in 98.
Mm-hmm.
DDP was so over. He was so hot. He walked through the crowd just like Jey Uso does. He was the people's champion. They called him the people's champion before The Rock called himself the people's champion. He was the people's champion. He had the symbol or the gesture, whatever, the diamond. His finish was so over. The diamond cutter was so over. But by the time they gave him a chance or gave him the title, it was the crowd was kind of like, we wanted this 6 months ago or a year ago. And he was in the midst of changing heel at the time. And I think they didn't pull the trigger earlier enough with DDP. And I think that's the same thing that they're doing with Jey Uso. Jey Uso isn't the talent that DDP was in the ring, but I mean, he does enough, and the crowd doesn't really care. They're happy enough with what Jey Uso can do in the ring because he's a great promo. He's got charisma. He's got everything else going for him. But if they don't pull the trigger and do something soon with Jey Uso, he's gonna lose that momentum.
I agree 100%.
I compare it to just like they did with DDP. DDP should have beat Goldberg for the title, and then he would have been the biggest baby face in the company. I think he would have rivaled Stone Cold Steve Austin in popularity.
Yep.
But if they don't do that with Jey Uso, if they don't pull the trigger with him now, then they're just going to throw up their hands and be like, okay, we know what this is. We've seen it before. We're happy with Jey Uso just being the quote-unquote, Gunther says, mascot.
It could very easily fizzle out, which is a scary thought considering how over he is right now. The DDP comparison is a very good one, Ignacio. I agree. And there was a time where it really did feel like pretty much everybody and their mother wanted DDP to be the world champion except management at WCW. It was like everybody except the booking committee. It was just
because they had Goldberg.
They had Goldberg, but to me, I mean, that run of popularity, it was borderline similar to Sting's when it comes to WCW. Correct. As far as how much the crowd was behind him. And people tend to forget that because we obviously saw it went downhill pretty quick. And then eventually the stalker gimmick in WWE, which was just, please erase that from the tape library if you're going to take anything away. Woof. Was that brutal? But either way, I'm in complete agreement. I think you got to strike while the iron's hot here. And I really enjoyed the match. It was so psychologically well laid out, despite Gunther getting the win. But you can't have the babyface go over every time. Soul, I want to get your thoughts on the match. And are you in agreement that it's probably getting close to time to really pull the trigger on something serious for Jey Uso?
Right. So everyone's saying like, oh, the Yeet movement's dead. Didn't we just say the exact same thing when he lost the IC and everyone was getting their knickers in a twist? Here's the thing, right? If you look at the main title picture for WWE in this year alone, you obviously have the main one, which is John Cena going for the 17. So which one do you go? After this, I think it's going to be Gunther and Cena at Mania. I think that's where you go. And for the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber, obviously are the two main tickets to getting the men's belt on that show. So either Gunther's winning the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber. Sorry, no. Or Cena's either winning the Rumble or the Elimination Chamber. I think because it's his last Rumble and the Rumble means more, he'll win the Rumble. But then it's like, well, who goes for Cody? Fatu, Jacob Fatu. They're building Fatu for something. Jacob Fatu has done more for the Fatu name and the bloodline in 5 months than Solo Sikoa has done in 3 years, in my personal opinion.
I actually agree.
Because I feel like with Cody, if you give it to Cena, it kind of leaves Cody in like, oh, how does Cody come back for this? Is he just going to shake hands and drink, backstage with him like he's done with The Rock? Because we thought The Rock was the end goal for the last year. Or do you have Jacob Fatu defeat Cody Rhodes on the main event on night 1 to build that somber atmosphere of the big babyface just lost? And then you get the crowd back with the main event on night 2, which is Cena versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight. Cena holding the World Heavyweight would mean more for that belt than anyone could do rather than the WWE Championship. I compare it to Sting, right? If you're in the WWE, I personally feel you are not completed in your wrestling career until you hold the WWE Championship. Doesn't matter what the World Heavyweight is. It's always going to be the second-rate belt. Even if it's unified, you're not a WWE champion at that point. But if you can say, hey, I was in WWE and I held the final belt of John Cena's career that got him the 17, that's something that I think people may think that maybe I never became WWE champion, but I held that belt at least. And I think that would mean more for it. But for Jey Uso, mate, how about Jey Uso defeats Jacob Fatu for the WWE championship?
Very cool.
Via the ways of Money in the Bank, or even if they want to do tribal combat again. Like, there's other ways, and if he's still making money off the merch and his merch is still selling to kids and there's still a reaction from the crowd, is he really buried?
I agree. I don't think he's fully buried yet. I just worry that, you see when people get this hot, it's hard to sustain it over a super long period. So like that is my only concern, but I am in agreement. There's nothing about last night says that Jey Uso, at least in my eyes, is buried, right? Like I'm in full agreement there. Like he put up a heck of a match against a very, very, very strong world champion. And I don't think he loses much steam from this. And as Ignacio mentioned in the arena, he got the biggest pop of the night. So it's like, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, even a loss doesn't bury you if you got the biggest pop of the night. No. I think, at least in my eyes. Coby, what's your opinion on this one as far as Jay's concerned, the match last night? And then I really do actually like Soul's suggestion about Money in the Bank. It doesn't necessarily have to be Mania. He doesn't have to win a title at Mania, I don't think, or like even the Chamber for that matter. But Money in the Bank is I think a fun call too, because he's got history in ladder matches. He's good at them. And I think he'd be Yeet in the Bank would be fun.
Yeah, wow. I mean, there you go. That's your marketing right there, and that would sell a crap ton of merchandise. Yeet in the Bank. We got we keep doing it, and special Money in the Banks is what they love to work with. But at the end of the day, this match was really good. I think this was one of Jay's better matches in a long time. And I'm sitting here going, the story that was told was Jey Uso wanted to walk into Saturday night's main event and earn Gunther's respect, and he did. Yeah. This is not a burial. Whoever says Jey Uso losing to Gunther last night was a burial, you don't know the meaning of that word. This put him over in defeat. Gunther gave him that stare down of respect. He took him to Gunther's limit, potentially. And Gunther, if Gunther just turns his back and says the opposite, maybe there's a rematch down the line, but there was respect given in this match, and it was a really good match. The biggest thing to me is, while there's predictable results like Gunther retaining, the fact that they had the near falls, they made the people in the building believe. That's your job. WWE did their job in this match to make you believe Jey Uso had a shot. That's the brilliance of this. That's where they found success last night. The one thing that I know, like you said, if he doesn't win the Rumble, I don't think he's winning the Rumble because I don't know who he faces. Maybe a rematch with Gunther, but I don't think that's the marquee match you put on a WrestleMania card. I don't think he would face Cody either. To me, I do think he needs to do something though. And I don't think he needs to, and I don't want him to be in some tag match with the Bloodline, or if he's well, I think that might be probable, but if we want to get funky and if we want to get froggy and have some fun, I don't know who would win this. And I think that's what would make this interesting is do the rubber match. Braun Breaker versus Jey Uso.
Oh, I don't mind that.
They're one win apiece.
I put him.
And that's all you can do. Then it's up to you because you can either have Jey Uso win at WrestleMania or you can establish Braun Breaker at WrestleMania. There's two. It's kind of a lose-lose scenario because you kind of got to choose one. But I think that would be a good choice because I kind of just see maybe it's Usos versus Jacob and Tama Tonga. And I like at this point, I want Jay to have a singles match, and I think Jacob needs a singles match.
I think that's fair too.
It's whether it's Roman or not.
And then Ignacio, you were going to add one more idea you had?
Yeah, I think they're gonna. If he doesn't win the Royal Rumble, it's probably to me be very disappointing. But I think they're gonna put him with Logan Paul.
Oh wow, that's not a terrible idea.
I think that'd be interesting. It's tough. I think they could make that work.
You could almost do that with
they are the WWE.
They absolutely could. They absolutely could make it work. I mean, everybody hates Logan Paul whenever he's there. He's the most hated person
easy
in
to
wrestling,
root against.
and everybody loves Jey Uso.
It's really not a bad call at all. But I will say with that's going to bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy the football today. And then Rumble week this week. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. That's noon Pacific, 3 o'clock over on the East Coast, 8 o'clock p.m. over in the UK. And of course, 9 a.m. for my friends in Hawaii. Have an awesome Sunday, and we will talk to y'all soon. On behalf of me, Ignacio, Soul, and Coby, have a great day.